our Sunnyside Community Solar Program. So thank you all for joining us today. We're really excited to present and talk about this program. We will kind of get into all the details here, but we will have a Q&A opportunity at the end. So please feel free to put your questions into the Q&A. We want to make sure this is an opportunity to get all of those answered as well. So like I said, my name is Emily Misseldine. I'm our Energy Management Key Account Specialist, and I'm here presenting today with my colleague Steve Smith, our Grid Innovations and Program Manager. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve and have him get started.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining us as we get to talk about Sunnyside Community Solar. It's a really exciting project that LPEA has been working on for a while. And we're glad to see you here with us tonight and to share some of the excitement with you all. This evening, we're first going to talk about the overview of the Sunnyside project, let you know a little bit more about where it is, what it is, how it works. Then we'll dive into talking a bit about community solar. What is community solar as a concept, and then how does it work in practice? We'll follow up that with a discussion of who can participate in the program. And then we'll talk some about the timeline and enrollment process. We'll follow that with some billing and financial considerations. And then we'll wrap up with a summary and some additional resources. And then finally, at the end, we'll be doing a Q&A for any questions that folks have throughout the presentation. And so you're encouraged, if you have a question, please do ask it in the question and answer portal. And then when we get towards the end of the evening, we will be able to answer those questions for everyone. So the Sunnyside Community Solar project, here you see a picture of it from last fall, where it was partially completed. You can see a number of the panels are in, but then you can also see on the upper end of that picture some of the posts that have been driven that haven't yet had all the racking and the panels attached to them. If you drive south from Durango on Highway 550, you will see this just before, on your left, just before you get to Sunnyside Elementary School. Out there, it occupies a footprint of about 9 acres. That is about the size of 9 football fields. We have exactly 3,627 panels out there. These panels are 600-watt panels. They're larger than your typical residential panel and also produce more power. They are mounted on a single-axis tracking system. And what that means is that they're on something that can tilt, face the east in the morning and then face the west in the evening to follow the sun's general arc through the sky and maximize the amount of energy that can be produced. They also are bifacial panels, meaning that they can capture light on their backside. And you know that there's a small amount of light that's being reflected off the ground all the time. And so it captures that. And then in the winter, we'll definitely see a much more significant gains from the fact that it'll be able to reflect off the snow. And that light will then be absorbed by the panels and used to make electricity. This community solar system has a total capacity. You see 2 values listed there, a 1.7 megawatts AC and a 2.125 megawatts DC. AC is the alternating current. It's the power that's on the grid. DC, direct current, it's the power that the solar panels themselves are making. And typically you oversize a system DC because you're not usually getting the optimal angle from the sun. And so that oversizing the DC allows you to maximize that AC production most of the time. And then it's projected that this system is going to produce just over 4,600 megawatt hours. And that's sort of a strange number to wrap our minds around, but that's approximately enough to power 600 homes over the course of the entire year.
And thanks, Steve. Sorry, gotta unmute. Thanks so much. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about how community solar works. So, community solar is like it's a big solar array. There are some big solar arrays that can be plugged right into the grid and just be powering the grid, and it's just kind of a grid asset. Community solar is a little bit different in that it's a larger solar array that's installed somewhere that's an optimal place for solar power. And then individual members or individuals can sign up to receive a portion of their power from this larger array. So kind of how the process will work. So first a member subscribes. We talk community solar, we're talking about subscriptions. You're subscribing to a portion of this broader array. So how it'll work is member will start by that app subscription and applying for signing up to receive part of this larger solar array. So then we'll look at what your usage is and size of subscription that's appropriate for how much you use. So every member who signs up may use something a little bit differently. So here in this graphic, you can see in number 2, Carrie might need a little bit more power than Morgan, and a school might need a little bit more or less, and a restaurant might have several locations and want more power there. And so there's this. Instead of having panels on your roof, you're subscribing to a panel or a portion of a panel in this larger array. It's also important to note you're actually not getting exactly that one panel, but you're getting kind of a percentage of this broader array, a percentage of what's being produced overall. Then that is allocated to you, and the power goes into our grid, and LPEA just distributes the energy. It goes into our grid and is used where it's needed, and then you get a credit on your electric bill that offsets your energy consumption or offsets your usage based on how much your portion of that broader array produces. So the panels are out at this other site. You don't need to go maintain your specific panels or anything like that. This array is owned by LPEA, operated by LPEA, and is, something that we would maintain. It's kind of one of the benefits of it as well. And then you just see the benefits on your electric bill. I'm gonna turn it back over to Steve to talk a little bit more about who's eligible to participate.
So all LPEA residential and commercial account holders are welcome to participate in this program, unless you happen to already be a net metered account because you have solar or other generation located at your point of service, or if you happen to already subscribe to one of the pre-existing community solar gardens. And the reason for those 2 small limits is simply because it makes the accounting process something that it's difficult to manage on the back end. When we think about the Sunnyside Community Solar program, we split it into 3 buckets. There is a bucket for La Plata County, who is the anchor tenant. They will be receiving approximately 30% of the energy that's generated by this facility. And then secondly, there's an income qualified bucket, and this bucket will be receiving 50% of the energy or benefit from this community solar program. We anticipate that that's going to be about 300 subscriptions. And to be considered for this income qualified bucket, the subscriber would have to be earning no more than 80% of the area median income for their household. This carve out of 50% for the income qualified portion is in alignment with best practices as outlined under the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as some of the bonus tax credits that apply underneath that. And it also allows members in LPEA service territory who otherwise would not necessarily be able to access renewable energy to do so. Furthermore, it's aligned with the goals of La Plata County, and one of the things as an anchor tenant they were looking for in this partnership. And so we are pleased to be able to do that. And then the last bucket is for our general membership, and that's for going to be roughly 20% of the energy from this array. And we anticipate that will be about 100 subscriptions. So as I mentioned on the previous page, about 50% of the energy that's being produced by this system is going to be for income qualified for participants. And for the income qualified program for eligibility, you need to earn as a household no more than 80% of the area median income. We have these values shown on the left side of the slide for La Plata and Archuleta County. If you happen to be a resident of any of the other 3 counties that we do serve a few folks in, we will be able to find those numbers and help verify those for you. And then when it comes time for income verification, and this will be part of the application, we're partnering with 4Core to do this. We're partnering with 4Core because they have worked with a number of other income qualified programs in our area. They are a trusted partner in the area, and it allows some space between LPEA and its members in terms of assessing these questions around income verification. To be income verified, there will be one of 2 paths. You can show proof of participation in another qualifying program like LEAP or SNAP or the free and reduced lunch program. And as long as you can show participation in the past year, that is one way to show income verification. And the other would be through a direct verification method, either using a previous year's tax return or recent pay stubs.
Great. Well, now we're going to talk a little bit more about the process and what to expect. So the application window's opening July 1st, which is Monday upcoming. So we're very excited to launch it, and we appreciate you guys joining us here ahead of time. So the application window will be open from July 1st to August 29th, so for about 2 months. So if you're interested, we do encourage you to get your application in during that window. So income qualified members will apply through our partner 4Core. So we are working with Four Corners Office for Resource Efficiency, who will be managing the whole income verification process, as well as managing that part of the program with us. So we're excited for that partnership. As Steve said, they have a lot of experience working with income qualified programs, and have been a trusted entity that we work with to do similar things in the past. So we are excited to work with them. We do have them on the line today, and we'll introduce them here in a few. Members applying for so anyone who's applying for the income qualified program will apply directly with 4Core. Members who are applying for the general membership program or any of our other residential or commercial members who do want to apply will apply directly through LPEA. So that application will be available on our website, where you found a lot of the information about where we're at with that program right now, and may have submitted an interest form. So we'll be notifying all those folks when the application window opens. But please note that if you have filled that out, that does not qualify as an application. You would need to go ahead and apply during the application window of July 1st through August 29th. After you apply, you should receive a confirmation email saying, hey, your application has been received. And then during that time, applications will be reviewed. So 4Core would be doing the income verification during that time. And we will, and then you might be notified that you qualify, but you will find out a little bit later whether you've been accepted into the program. So we'll get to that here in a sec. So that window will be open for about 2 months. Then during the month of September, once the application window closes, LPEA will work with all the members who've applied. Well, if there's more applicants than there is capacity in the array, we will run a lottery in September. If it's not oversubscribed and there's space for everyone, great, and everybody will be accepted. So during the month of September, we'll be conducting that lottery and looking at everyone who's participating. We'll be looking at those individual historical annual consumption to get an idea of how much power you use and what size solar subscription would be appropriate for you. So during that time, we'll determine the appropriate subscription amount and go forward with subscription agreements. So important to note that the application is not necessarily a commitment at this time, and you can withdraw it later if you want to. So you would have the opportunity to decide what path you want to go when we get to that enrollment and agreement window there. Then the generation from the solar array will begin producing power on October 1st. So that'll be our program effective date. So that's when you'll start seeing the power will start to be producing. Your solar credits and your solar power will start then. That October generation will begin in October 1st. Then you'll start to receive the credits on your electric bill beginning in November. So just like your current bills, your usage from October, you pay for in November. Similarly, your solar subscription will align with that in your current billing cycle as well. So you'll get a credit on your bill based on the amount of kilowatt hours that's produced by your particular subscription each month. The folks participating in the general membership program will also see the subscription fee, the cost there, they'll seeing that in their November bill as well, which will align with the solar generation. We'll talk a little bit more about the billing piece here in a moment. The subscription period is going to be about 5 years. This first period is a little bit less, just given where we're starting in the year, but it'll run through April 2029. Members can unenroll or drop out at any reason for no penalty. We want this to be something that is accessible and doesn't feel like you're locked into something or feels risky. We're so confident you're going to love it that you can unroll at any time if you need to. If you do move within the service territory, you can take your subscription with you as well. So like I said, it'll be about a 5-year period through April 2029. Then right before that period ends, we'll have a re-enrollment period in March of 2029. So members at that point will have the opportunity to either re-enroll, potentially re-verify their income in the income qualified program, or maybe open up for re-enrollment. So like I said, we're kind of a little bit more about the details of how the enrollment will work and what you can expect. So like I said, the lottery will take place the first week of September. If we're not oversubscribed, then everybody will be able to sign up and it'll go to first come, first serve from there. LPEA will notify all applicants in both the general membership program and the income qualified program of the lottery decision and where you're at in the wait list some point in September. So that's when you'll hear from us on whether or not you've been accepted, and we'll talk then about what kind of subscription sizes and make sure you understand all the details of the terms and conditions at that point. We do understand that people's usage changes. Like I said, you can take a subscription with you if you move within the service territory. Your usage may end up being a little bit different year to year. Similar to how net metering works, we'll have an April to April solar year. So the idea is that generation begins in April and you build up solar credits throughout the summer months. And then in the winter, when solar generation is a little lower, you're able to draw on those credits. So going into that April to April enrollment kind of solar year, we say, we do have the potential opportunity to reevaluate subscription sizes in March going into that next April. So if someone has oversubscribed and they don't need as much, maybe we adjust it down. If you moved into a new house and your usage has gone up, if there's capacity available, we may be able to adjust your subscription size from there. As far as the enrollment process themselves, like I said, LPEA members or general members, residential or commercial, will apply directly on our website at lpea.coop/Sunnyside. So that's where all the information lives today, and the application will be live there on Monday, July 1st. For core, we'll be handling all the income qualified applicants, and they can apply directly at forcore.org. One exciting thing I would also mention on the income qualified piece is that with the first 100 qualified applicants will be guaranteed acceptance. So if you think you might qualify for that program, and as you saw, the income limits are pretty moderate. It's expensive to live here. The cost of living is high, as we all know. So the income limits do take that into account to some extent. So, take a look at that and please go ahead and apply. Also, if you think you might qualify for income, but you're not 100% sure, you can throw your name in the hat for both buckets and see if you qualify for income qualified. And if you don't, then you'll have the opportunity to be put in the lottery for the general membership. So do recommend you apply as soon as possible to get your name in the hat there. So to talk a little bit more about how we'll size a subscription. So members can size up to 100% of their historical annual use, and that will be capped at 10 kilowatts for residential accounts or 25 kilowatts for commercial accounts. And that's aligned with some of our other solar net metering policies and state statutes around solar. So the idea is that you can offset all of what you need, but we don't really want to go more than that because we want to make sure this is available to the most members as possible. It's also probably not as worth it for you to apply for more than you need. So that's again what we would look at during that September window. So if you use less power, you don't need a huge subscription. If you use a little bit more, you're able to size that accordingly to what's best for you. So it is really customizable. One thing that's great to note is there are some folks who like, hey, I've been interested in solar in the past, but our bills aren't that high. Don't know if it's worth it for us. That's a great thing about community solar is that we can really be flexible and size this to anybody's usage level, regardless of if it's worth it to go through the process of community solar or rooftop solar if in cases of really low usage. So there's a lot of flexibility and customization that we can do with community solar. So something to keep in mind there as well. Okay, so bear with me, there's a lot of words on this slide and there's a lot of information, but we certainly understand that this is an important thing that matters a lot to participants and why you might sign up for this program. So community solar is designed to be as close to what on-site solar, net metered solar is like. So we understand that production is more in the summer and less than the winter. So the value of the credit you get each month will vary. So it'll depend on actual generation month to month, and that'll be what you see credited on your bill. Some important things to note is that the subscription will only impact your energy charges. So that's your kilowatt hours that are on your bill. So that won't impact your base charge, your peak power charge, demand charge, taxes and fees, anything like that. So this will be a direct offset to your kilowatt hour cost. Similar to solar, if your subscription produces more in a month than you consume in a month, you'll be able to roll over your unused monthly generation into a solar bank that will be maintained throughout the program year. And that program year is going to be April to April, like we said, which is again how a lot of our all of our net metered customers operate now as well. The idea being you're going to bank those credits in the summer months, use them when you need them more in the winter months, and ideally at the end of April, you've used them all and there's nothing left in your solar bank. The billing is going to work a little bit differently depending on if you're participating in the income qualified program or that general membership program that's open to anyone. So for the general membership, this is going to function a little bit more like a really typical net metered account. So you're going to be credited at a 1-to-1 dollar for dollar kilowatt hour credit on your bill. So today you pay about 12 cents per kilowatt hour. You get credited at 12 cents per kilowatt hour. Some months will have more benefit than the subscription. There will also be a subscription costs on there as well that you would see month to month. So the subscription fee is broken up into 12 monthly payments, and that's going to be based on the total subscription size that you sign up for. And this would be what we're going to go over with you and determine with you, and you'll have some flexibility to weigh in on during that enrollment part of September. So that annual fee is broken into monthly payments that you'll see on your bill. We'll go into some examples in a moment. So you'll see the fee on your bill, you'll see the credit on your bill, and you essentially will pay the difference. Some months you'll have more benefit than the subscription cost because your generation is higher, and some maybe less. It'll depend on generation, your usage, and what you have built up on your net meter bank. So that's why we're looking at sizing this appropriately for every individual subscriber to about 100% of your consumption. The cost of the program is a little bit more than current energy rates, and this is to access local renewable energies and also to manage the program. So that's the program cost, and that's how that's calculated. Again, that would be something we're going to get into detail with when you go over your agreement and sign it and say, okay, this is what you're looking at, what you would like. The first year of subscription costs will be prorated, just knowing that we're starting in November instead of April. Again, we would go over that with you when you sign your agreement. At the end of the year, if you do have anything left in your solar bank, in that April billing cycle, that would be paid out to you at LPEA's avoided cost of energy. Again, that's very similar to how our current net metering program works. And again, why we want to size it to 100% of your usage. It's most valuable to you if you use it, but if you have something left in that bank, you've paid for it, we'll pay you back out for it, just like we do any net metered customer. The income qualified billing is going to be structured a little bit differently. So all the generation is going to be credited against their consumption. Again, same thing against your consumption, but there's no subscription cost. So there's no upfront cost and there's no ongoing cost. The credit that will be credited on there is targeted to achieve a 20% savings on the energy charges. And that is targeted at 20% savings, even if our rates change. This is, again, Steve mentioned before, aligned with best practices in the community solar world around trying to ensure benefit for our income qualified members. So they would see no fee on their bill, just a credit on their bill of about a 20% savings based on the kilowatt hour charges there. If there's anything left in your net meter bank at the end of the program year in April, that credit will just be forfeited back to LPEA. And if it's looking like it's a pretty big gap, that is something we can go ahead and adjust at the end of the year, the end of that March cycle, so that we can ensure that we're getting the most, every single subscriber is getting the most out of their subscription. So just to put that into a visual, a little better of a visual, I know that's a lot complex and a lot of details there. But you can see in this first example here, you've got your base charge as normal, that's unaffected. Your peak power charge, that's also unaffected. And then you have your energy charge. So this month you use about 400 kilowatt hours and you pay for that just like you would normally. Then your community solar credit is again credited at 12 cents a kilowatt hour. You get a credit there. Your subscription fee has its own line item at what that predetermined per kilowatt monthly charges, and then you pay the difference. Then in that example too, similar situation, same consumption, but your solar produced more that month, so that's great. Then again, base charge unaffected, peak charge unaffected. Your credit you've got your kilowatt hours that was consumed, but you get to roll over the extra into a solar bank that you can use later in the year. For the income qualified program, again, it'll look a little bit differently. Same thing though, base charge is unaffected. Your peak power charge is the same. And yeah, let's see, I can kind of highlight this a little better. Your base charge is unaffected here. Your peak power charge is still the same. Your consumption is your energy charge on a per kilowatt hour basis. And then your community solar credit is credited against that at about 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour, which is about 20% of our current energy charges. Again, similar situation here in this month, you'd be getting this savings for the kilowatt hour credit here, but then the excess that you didn't need in this particular month goes into your solar bank and you can use it later in the month. Then this billing 3, or the example 3 here shows where maybe your solar didn't produce as much this month and you needed to draw on your solar bank in order to get there, which you're able to do. And again, it'll be offset at a 20% savings, or about 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. I know that's complicated and has some questions involved. We're happy to answer what we can here, and also certainly something we're happy to discuss in more detail. We are looking at some in-person application events that we can chat about. We can have folks here, and would be something we'd certainly be able to go into in more detail before you sign agreements. So I'm sure at this point there's a lot of information there, and now you're starting to look at, is this a good fit for me and how this works? So for the general membership program, there are a lot of benefits. There's no upfront cost, and those costs are flexible and related to how much you need and how much you're going to use and how much you're participating in the program. It's not limited by property, so anyone can participate. So if you rent, if you own, if you have an old roof, if you don't own your roof, if you live in an area where our interconnection has been limited, if you have big trees, the big beautiful trees you don't want to cut down, this is a really great opportunity for anyone to participate. It's also transferable within LPEA service territory. So if you move anywhere within LPEA's territory, through the life of your subscription, you can take it with you. And like I said, we may be able to adjust your subscription size to be more appropriate to where you've moved to. Also, there's no long-term commitment. You are welcome to drop out or change things at any time if you need to and if the capacity is available. You're also locking in the cost of electricity for the term of the contract. So you're paying for what it costs today, and if costs go up or down, you've kind of fixed your credit rate, and you're not paying more than that. So that's exciting. You're also supporting local renewable energy. This is right here in our community, right here in La Plata County, and something we're excited that we can benefit from. One drawback to consider or something to think about is that because rooftop or on-site solar tends to have a 10, 11-year payback period. If you're in community solar for more than 10 years, you may be more expensive over time, but it is a cost-effective way to access solar energy today. And again, you have the flexibility to make changes if you'd like. The income qualified program is if it's a good fit for me. If you meet these income limits, so anyone who's at or below 80% of the area median income, and again, these income limits are fairly moderate. So definitely take a look and see if you or anyone else you know can qualify. The benefits here are a lot more straightforward. There's a 20% savings on your energy charges. You will always save money in this program. There's no cost to participate. There's no commitment, short or long term. And you have the ability to access locally generated renewable energy regardless of your housing type. And as far as we can tell, there's no downside to the income qualified program, but we're always here for feedback and want to make sure this continues to be a good program for our community. So I do just want to take a quick moment to introduce our program partner, ForCore. Molly or Jenny, if you're able to unmute yourself and say hi and introduce yourself. We can find more information at lpea.coop/Sunnyside for our general membership program and anything about either program. And ForCore at forcore.org/Sunnyside was where you can apply for the income qualified program. Jenny, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
I sure can. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. This is Jenny Hill. I'm the executive director for ForCore, and we are very excited to be a partner with LPEA for the Sunnyside Community Solar Program. And like Emily has been mentioning, if you are income qualified, please come to our website, forcore.org/Sunnyside on Monday, July 1st, and sign up. And we are happy to answer any other questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Great, so we're gonna go ahead and turn this over to questions. I do see a few folks with their hands up still. Please go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A below, and we will make sure that we get them all answered. Thank you guys so much for being here. The first question I have here, the numbers in your chart, are they 100% AMI or 80%? They are 80% AMI, and those are published by HUD, the federal government, and the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So those are preset, and most other programs use similar numbers as well at different levels. So another question, what is the benefit to non-participating members and what's the cost to them? Are they subsidizing energy use by participating income qualified members? That is a great question. So we're actually excited to say that the general LPA membership is not subsidizing any part of this program. This program is self-contained and is self-funded. And so basically the participants who are choosing voluntarily to participate and to buy in through the general membership program, as well as La Plata County's commitment to their upfront investment and their commitment to the income qualified program, as well as some of the federal tax credits that were made available through the Inflation Reduction Act that are accessible now by co-ops and utilities like us who weren't always able to access them before. Will be all of that together makes this program kind of self-sustained, and no, the LPA membership is actually not subsidizing any piece of this. Will the non-income qualified have cost savings? That's a really great question. And no, not really. There is a cost to participate in this program. It is cheaper, more economical than putting solar on your roof, but it will be, there will be a, paying for the energy. You're basically paying up front for the energy you're getting for that 5-year, kind of locking in your energy rate for 5 years. And there is a program cost that comes associated with it. So at the end of the day, you'll probably end up paying a little bit more with community solar, but be accessing local community solar energy. Sorry, tongue twister there. Apologies. Are there other community solar programs available? There have been some existing community solar gardens that were installed by third parties that we LPA, they come into our grid, but they aren't ours. So at this time, this is our only program of like this one. We do hope to offer more programs in the future, possibly, but nothing is slated right now. And there's a lot up in the air with what kind of programs we'd be able to offer in the future. So for right now, no, there are no plans to expand this at this point in time. Great question. I'm on time of use. Any restrictions? No, there are no restrictions for time of use. Time of use is eligible. What we do for time of use is there's a blended credit rate. So because we know that most of the solar production happens during off-peak hours, but some could happen on peak hours, does happen on peak hours, we do have a blended rate that takes those percentages into account, which I believe is about 10.2 cents per kilowatt hour. And so we are able to accommodate that. And the kilowatt hour usage is the kilowatt hour used based on monthly or annual usage. So we would look at your last 12 months of consumption. What time Monday does 4-core applications open? Jenny, would you like to answer that?
Yes, absolutely. I think we're going to have it open at 8 a.m. on Monday to ensure that somebody is on hand in case we have any questions or problems or issues on the back end with our website or with the form stack application. So how about 8 a.m. on Monday morning?
Perfect. And I believe that's LPEA's, that'll be about LPEA's time as well. Like I said, when the application window does close in August, we would run a lottery at that point. So there's no penalty if you don't submit immediately. The income qualified, as I did mention, the first 100 applicants will be guaranteed acceptance. So I certainly understand wanting to get in there. But I think you'll have plenty of time there. Okay, I've got a question about, I switched from propane to electric heat source last fall, so my energy bills have gone up, but I don't have a full year on this new system yet. If you're looking back at several years of energy usage to determine subscription size, can it be weighted more towards recent bills? Steve, is that something you're able to answer?
Yes, yeah, in the situations where we don't have a full year of usage, or if someone has recently moved, or it's a new construction, we can work with you to figure out what is a reasonable estimate, so that we can, to the best of our ability and the best of your ability, identify what 100% of your usage would be. And you are also free to hedge and choose on the lower side if we say that you would need X number of kilowatt hours probably. You could choose to sign up for a share that would be slightly smaller than that to ensure that you don't over subscribe. And then in a future instance, if more capacity becomes available, you could add to your share later.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. And just to confirm, related to renters, membership is connected to the LPEA account and not to the property. As a renter, I apply normally and separately from my landlord, correct? Yes, that's correct. So this will be tied to your LPEA account. So as long as the account is in your name, and not your landlord's name, then yes, you would apply to yourself, and it would not be connected to the property. It would be connected to you as a customer, you as a member, and your LPA account. So if you move to another location, it can go with you. It doesn't stay with the property. That's a great question. How specifically will we submit proof of income are related to security and secure access? This is a great question, and another reason why we're partnering with 4Core on the income verification. So their online application will have a secure encrypted upload option where you're able to upload your income documentation. So that is secure and stored securely and is encrypted on 4Core side. La Plata Electric will never have access to that either. So they'll verify that, keep that behind the firewall, and then they'll just provide LPA with a list of who's qualified and how they qualified, and that's it. And then we would follow up with you on the subscription sizes and agreements. Also worth noting too, it will say on the application, but just to relate to that, is we don't need your social security number. We don't need other identifying information like that. And so you totally have the ability to black out or redact your social security number that may be on your tax returns. 4Core will not need that information, and you do not need to provide it. But either way, the upload will be fully secure. I do have a couple questions here on what the income is based on. Is that adjustable gross or taxable income? And Molly, I'm with 4Core. I'm wondering if you might be able to answer that question for us.
Sure. It is adjusted gross income. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions? It looks like that's all of our questions that have submitted. Do you have one more qualifying question? Did you say that non-income qualified accounts will not necessarily save money? In fact, it may cost more. Yes, that's correct. So it may cost a little bit more than our current cost of energy, but it would cost less than putting solar on your roof, and you'd be able to access solar energy. But it's not the way you might save money is that you'd be locking in your subscription cost today, but your credit will go with the cost of energy. So if our rates go up, you're sort of hedging against that by locking in your rate today. But beyond that, no, would cost. There is a little bit of an additional cost associated with participating. And so it is voluntary. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. We understand. But the idea is that this is a way and an opportunity for you to participate in community solar. I would also note that's fairly common for community solar programs at large. And so there's kind of a cost to participate, and you're hoping to hedge against your future cost increases there. But they're not necessarily targeted to save money every month. But you wouldn't have to come up with any type of upfront investment. You don't have to come up with $20,000 to put solar on your roof. Although if that's a route you want to go, you absolutely can do that as well, provided you're able to do that for other reasons. I do see a couple of hands up. Are you guys able to put your questions in the chat? I do want to make sure we get a chance to answer questions. I am going to go ahead and try to answer these. I should give you, looks like we got a couple more came in that maybe we were able to do it here. Is the subscription cost determined by usage or flat for all non-income qualified members? That's a great question. And so I'm actually going to go back to the sample bills, which was also requested here. Can you guys see that? Great. So the subscription cost is, it's a great question, and it's kind of both. So it'll be determined based on what your historical usage is. So say you used 10,000 kilowatt hours in a year, we're going to size you a solar subscription that is going to produce about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. So that is determined by your usage. However, that is, it has a fixed dollar per kilowatt amount, which you can see right here on this chart, comes out to $22.77 per kilowatt. So say you're going to get a 5 kilowatt subscription, it would be 5 times $22 a month, which I'm going to ballpark at about $110 a month. Forgive me if my math is a little bit off there. But then that would be flat. It's broken out into 12 even payments throughout the year. So that is flat throughout the year and won't go up. You are locking in that rate. What could fluctuate is that, your solar credit would go up and down month to month. Again, you'd have that solar bank paid out at the end of the year. And you would have the opportunity to adjust that if needed at the end of the year. Again, when we go to signed agreements, if you're like, okay, I need a 5 kilowatt subscription, but I actually only want to pay for 4, that's an option as well. So we'll give you that opportunity on the application, as well as when we get to the point of sizing subscriptions. Hope that answers the question, but please feel free to drop any clarifying information or clarifying questions into the chat. I know that the billing is certainly a complicated piece. Have another question about what about Archuleta County customers? That's a great question. Any LPEA member is eligible to participate in either program. So that's La Plata County, Archuleta County. It doesn't matter where you are. We kind of call this virtual net metering. So you don't have to be located physically close to the array. It's just handled on your bill. We also serve members, a handful of members in Hinsdale County, Mineral County, and San Juan County. So if you're in any of those counties as well, you're eligible to participate too. We don't have the income limits up on there, but we can look that up for you if you qualify. So any LPEA member throughout any part of our service territory is eligible. But thank you, great question. The estimated percentage of kilowatt hours of subscription from solar versus current general sources.
I'll take a stab at that, and if I don't answer your question, please follow up with another one. This is a 1.7 megawatt AC array, and it will be producing during daytime hours. Our system in the winter, we're a nighttime peaking utility, so we use the most of our electricity actually in the evening hours in the winter. And at that point, we might be seeing a load of approximately 150 megawatts. So if the question is like, how big is this relative in terms of production to our overall energy consumption over the course of the year? I could get back with you with specific numbers, but I would say at the moment it is less than 1% of our annual usage. And the community solar, as it is structured, it is this idea, this opportunity to be supporting local renewable generation, similar to the way that someone who might put solar on their roof, they're not actually using all of that power. a lot of that power because a residential customer is likely, in most cases, not using most of their power during the daytime. They're using it in the morning and evening, but their solar is mostly producing during the daytime. That customer is probably serving 5, 7, maybe as many as 10 neighbors at peak production time when load is minimal. And so we sort of see a similar thing. In the shoulder seasons or in the summer months, we might have a load in the middle of the day closer to like 80 megawatts, in which case, this is making up whatever 2 over 80 is, 1/40th or a little over 2% of our power. I hope that answered your question.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for the general membership mechanics. Can you show the second set for the income qualified bills? You bet. So here that is again, here, get my cursor over so I can kind of show where we're at. It's a little bit more simple. Instead of having a fee and a credit, they're just seeing a credit, which is targeted at about a 20% savings on the per kilowatt hour charge. So they'd be seeing about a 20% savings on their energy charges there. I do still see a couple of hands up. I am gonna take a stab at answering them. If you don't have a question, please go ahead and put your hand down. Susan, you should have the ability to talk. You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Susan. Okay, I'm gonna try to move on, but let us know if you're able to get in. Gina, if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. You should be able to talk now.
No, no questions.
Okay, go ahead and lower your hand then. I gotcha. Perfect. All right. Deborah, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like. All right. Okay. I do have it's EHBRUT. Gonna go ahead and let you unmute yourself if you'd like, if you have a question. Okay. It looks like maybe there are some accidental hands up. So I think that looks like everybody's questions here. Thank you so much for participating. We do have one more question that rolled in here. If the program is oversubscribed and a lottery is needed, is there a future plan to add more capacity down the road, or is this a one-time project? That's a great question. As many of you know, we are in the process of exploring what our future power supply looks like. So discussing what a future project or more capacity down the road is potentially part of that conversation, but is not something that LPEA has specific plans to do at this time. I do think it's possible that some, showing interest in what this program is could, help guide what kind of projects we look at in the future. But it's not necessarily guaranteed that we would be able to do a similar project or add more capacity to this one. But that remains to be seen, and would please stay tuned as we roll out more information around all of that does come out with our community power program. With that, that's a great question. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate your time and interest in this program. We are really excited to offer it and really excited for the launch to open here on July 1st at 8 a.m. You heard it here today. So please get your applications in when you can. If you do have any questions or want any more information, you can email communitysolar@lpea.coop. And we can get back to you. You can also reach out to our member services team who would be great at answering questions. If you do have questions specific to our income qualified program, I do encourage you to reach out to 4Core directly at info@4core.org. That's info@fourcore.org, or give them a call. Thank you guys so much for being here today and for your interest in our Community Power program. We look forward to seeing your application in soon. Have a great evening.